Many of you have probably already heard that there are news about Part 9. Araki announced that the protagonist of Jojolands will be a descendant of Joseph Joestar, who appeared in the end of Part 8. But in the interview he said descendants, so there might be multiple JoJos who are all descendants of Joseph. But that's not what I want to talk about today. Today I want to talk about a little theory that I have about who is going to be the JoJo or one of the JoJos. And I think that it will be Jotaro. And now please don't eat me alive, I will explain my theory. As the JoJo will be a descendant of Joseph, Joseph will play a major role. And if you think about it, the cast of the alternative versions in Part 7 and Part 8 always kind of stayed the same. Well, with the main JoBro and with the JoJo. For example, Johnny, an alternative version of Jonathan, still had the JoBro of Zeppeli. In this case Gyro, but he's also an alternative version of Will A. Zeppeli. In Part 8, it's Gappy and Yasuo who are alternative versions of Josuke and Koichi. I don't think the cast of Part 3 will be the alternative versions of themselves in Part 9. I think it will be Part 4. Think about it. It makes sense. Descendant of Joseph, Jotaro. Jotaro is there in Part 4. Also there is Koichi and Josuke, which will probably be present in Part 9 as it plays around the same time as Part 8. And by the time that Jojo Leon plays, Joseph has to be an old man, about in his 80s, I guess. And in Part 4, he's also a very old man. I don't know how old exactly, but likely in his 80s. So there are possible parallels. And also it would make sense that the JoJos are descendants, as Gappy would make another appearance. And I would personally be very, very happy about that, because he's my favorite JoJo and my favorite character in general. But also then there's the danger of him dying, and if that happens I'm going to cry. However, I even got a theory about how the character of Jotaro will be in Part 9. If you think about it, the alternative versions of the characters we got so far are always a very different person from the original one. You might even say the opposite. Jonathan and Johnny are very different from each other. Jonathan is always the knight in shining armor. He's always there to protect the weak and be the perfect gentleman. While Johnny is a very unlikable person at first because he's so arrogant and condescending towards others. In Josuke's case, Josuke from Part 4 always knew who he was. He never had the struggle of finding out who he really was and his place in this world. He was always this kind boy who helped people, and this manifests with his stand as well. Gappy, on the other hand, doesn't know who he is because he lost his memory, of course. This is his whole character arc. So my theory is that the Jotaro in Part 9 will be like an opposite of the Jotaro we know so far. Maybe a character in the direction of Narancia, who is very silly most of the times and doesn't take anything that serious. Who knows? But in general, I think this could be a fun little theory to think about. And I'm also aware that there was an alternative version of Jotaro already in Part 8, but why not do another that is the main role, I guess. And also, it's just a loose theory, tell me what you think about it, please. But be constructive. And with that, I'm going to say thanks for watching, and if you liked, subscribe. And if you want to see more about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, subscribe to my channel. I will do a very interesting video in the future. I'm working on that currently. It will be how to beat Stone Ocean, so stay tuned for that. And I will see you in the next one.